Welcome back. You're listening to Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carahsoft on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today, Tricia Fitzmaurice, the Regional Manager for Federal Law Enforcement and Justice at Red Hat. Now, Tricia, before break, we're talking a little bit about the idea of hybrid cloud, why it's important to understand that, one, agencies will be there for quite a while, but two, which hybrid cloud makes the most sense for which application and where to sit and why you need to sit there. The other piece of this is agencies are not going to be doing this on their own. They may have an internal cloud, but they're probably going to have an industry partner. They're going to have an external cloud. They will have an industry partner on that. When it comes to this idea of systems integrators and multiple vendors, what reasons are, if you will, should agencies keep in mind, or what do they have for this kind of the balance that they have to achieve between internal, external, and everybody in between?
Sure, absolutely. I think in the past, you saw, on the IT house, you saw kind of two types of contracts. SIs would either have this large O&M contract within an agency and management of a data center, or they'd have, a system build, a new system build type of contract. And now with these IT transformation efforts, and as DevSecOps is at the forefront of all of them, you're starting to see these SIs really need to come to the table with the ability to speak to the agency around their own lessons learned on how they've transformed their own internal organization, or other best practices that they've used in other IT modernization efforts. Because it truly is a big effort. These IT modernization efforts are really, it takes people outside their comfort zone. You're asking developers and operators and security individuals to work together in a way that they have never done so in the past. And these SIs have to be able to, in my opinion, it's a baseline for them to be able to come in. That should be expected, that they can come in and have those conversations around how they truly can take an agency on this journey and do it well.
It's the old walk the walk, talk the talk.
Right. Eat your own dog food.
I was going to drink your own champagne. You got me on that one. How often does that happen, though? How often do SIs realize that they have to, here's an example of how we transformed, and here's why those lessons can apply to you? Because for many reasons, the government's a much bigger organization than many companies.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, Red Hat sits in the center of a lot of these IT modernization efforts, and so we see it firsthand how necessary it becomes. And Red Hat has, been doing a great job of working with these SIs on helping infuse that type of collaborative culture that is just part of Red Hat's DNA. And so we've seen that these SIs truly start to understand that, hey, how we've done business in the past and with our siloed business units, well, now we have to be able to say that, no, we have these practices internal. And I know that, you've probably heard this from our other industry partners, of not just be able to teach them how to build the plane, but actually how to fly the plane as well. And that takes really the SIs being arm in arm with the agency that they're working with and supporting, to be able to show them how to take, not just create this new culture, but truly take it and have it move forward in a successful way.
You bring up this idea of the two types of contracts we used to see, kind of the large O&M, keep the plane running, right? And then the other one, build a new plane. I was at a recent event where they talked about some trends in the federal market where agencies are starting to use O&M dollars for what they call DME, right? Development, Modernization, Enhancement. And I think that's a very interesting trend, and that's where I think that experience of a systems integrator, of a Red Hat, can come in and say, oh, well, we've made that move as well, because, listen, no one ever says they have enough money, so money's tight. Is that a conversation? Are you starting to see that kind of, hey, we're using, for lack of a better word, O&M dollars or CapEx dollars to modernize, and then the SI has to come and be like, okay, we did it this way too? They're making the connection?
Yeah, I think that now there's, I think just in the nature of these IT transformation efforts and these efforts that are underway at these agencies, they're starting to see that you have to be creative like that in order to accomplish something. I mean, it's not the same type of, you have this O&M bucket and you have the DME bucket. You have to truly look at how is this all going to play together, and it's going to take if you're being able to, if you're automating and optimizing inside a data center and realizing some cost savings, absolutely those dollars should be going towards innovation. And so I think it's just the nature of what these agencies are asking.
You brought up this idea of culture change. It's a huge issue. We talk about it all the time when it comes to IT. It's never the technology, it's always the culture, right? But in this case, where I think the path you're going down to is ensuring that the systems integrator has the right tools, techniques, capabilities, skill sets in their workforce to help the agency transform. And that takes us, I think, to another area of DevSecOps, this idea of development, security, and then operations. Talk a little bit about that culture change that the SIs have to come to the table with those skill sets to really ensure that it goes back to what I think we talked about earlier, speed and capability.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that as an SI is leading a large transformational effort, they have to be very skilled in crucial conversations that are going to happen between these individuals. You know, you're asking for individuals that have in the past never worked together, never needed to work together, were sort of KPI'd on different metrics than each other, and those metrics may not have been beneficial to the other groups, right? Development needed to just get out as much as they could out the door because that's how they were metriced, and operations needed to handle whatever came over the wall to them as efficient as they could. So now you're asking them to come together, create these social contracts, and it becomes very important that an SI understands the breadth of what does the entire process look like from development all the way through operations and how security blends into that in order to be able to say, these are the things that are happening today. This is not going to be how we are going to get to where we want to go in the future. What conversations do we need to have and what changes need to be made? And agencies are looking to those SIs to be able to help them have those conversations with their individuals because it is uncomfortable. I mean, lots of people don't want to have to change their job that they may have been in for a number of years. But it's necessary if the agency is going to look to make the changes they want to make.
It's not only the job that they have been in, but also the processes they've been following. And DevSecOps is a whole different process because you have to understand that, okay, we're going to create something, we're going to check it maybe automatically with the security side, and then we're going to put in operation. And that could happen multiple times a day, it could happen multiple times a week. And that's different than the kind of what we've commonly referred to as the waterfall, or even some of the other DevOps where it's, we're going to every 3 weeks, or every month, or every 6 weeks. That's the other piece here. I think that's key that people have to get their head around is how quickly that the things can change and how they have to be okay with that change.
Right, absolutely. I think that you're not just including in this entire process new technologies that they have to learn, so a new skill set, but also retooling them into the thinking that, okay, we are going to, you hear a lot of like the fail fast, fail often, right? And the ability to take that idea and say, okay, well, we're going to move forward with this, and if it doesn't work, we're going to go back and make a change and go in a different direction. I think that's uncomfortable for people that haven't had that type of scenario in the past.
When you are talking with your clients in the federal sector, what's their take on DevSecOps? Are they ready for it, or are they still, well, let me see how it works first? Or they getting into the nook and crannies of the process? Walk me through a little bit. What kind of trends are you seeing?
I think that they're ready for it. I mean, I think everybody is ready for it. At maybe even at an IT decision maker level, I think it's really what you have to look at how you're going to infuse the passion around doing something like this and really changing how an agency is going to operate down into sort of the individuals that are responsible for the doing.
It's the passion, but it's also the trust. How do you infuse the trust? And I think that going back to your earlier point, if the SI comes in and says, well, we use DevSecOps every day, there's a great story, and I think it's actually a Red Hat story, because when we had other people on about Lockheed Martin or Boeing and some work you guys did with them to help fix their software development, it was a great story that you guys told around this
around
idea.
The F-22.
F-22,
yes,
sorry,
yeah. F-22,
It was one of those airplanes.
Yeah.
But the point is that you say, listen, we do it, we can show you how to do it, and we can make it better for everyone, and I think that's part of the key.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've seen it firsthand, from the federal law enforcement agencies, looking at really how do they infuse a DevSecOps culture into their organization, and how do they take the fear that individuals may have about their current job and what that may look like in the future if they start to work together in a different type capacity. But as you start to break down those barriers and people start to understand exactly where their fear resided initially, and you break that down and you are able to build up that trust of working together in this collaborative type nature, and they start to see the results. You start seeing it always the first one is the hardest,
Yep.
right? And then you see that after that, when you see that, oh, hey, that was very successful. We were able to get a workload, through a secure CI/CD pipeline out into production in a matter of days. We want more. And then you start seeing, from what we've seen, you start seeing other systems and other, other system owners show up like, well, I want to be next. I want to be next. I want to be next. So. And it's really an amazing thing to watch because it just kind of is transformation bit by bit within these agencies.
It just takes that early win.
Yeah.
The other piece of this, and we talked a little bit about it, but it really is the workforce. Does the SI, does the agency, do they have the right skill sets? Can they bring in the right people? Can they train the people? We've seen some challenges with the administration's Cybersecurity Reskilling Academy as an example of getting the right people in the right position. What are some of the workforce challenges you're seeing, and how do we overcome them?
Yeah, I think that a big hurdle coming in is that as you're getting new individuals entering the workforce, they want to work on all the cool DevOps-y type things, and really there is still the need for the O&M side and the patching and the automation of that side and configuration management. But I think that the SIs. The challenge there that they have is simply overcoming the barrier of ensuring that as they are hiring new talent, truly infusing that culture of collaboration and meritocracy within their overall organization to make it a place that individuals want to work. Because you start to see as people rally around a common goal or a common mission and feel part of a team and feel that they have a voice and they're able to take the risks that they want to take. You see them as happier employees, and so I think that SIs have to look at how to really kind of change their own culture internally to ensure that that's what that they can retain the talent that they want to retain, as well as also portray themselves to the agency that they're trying to work with and prove to the agency that they can.
In many ways, they can be the example that can say, look, we brought in these people, we trained them.
Exactly.
And now look, we can bring you these skill sets.
Exactly.
At the same vein, agencies also need to have the right talent to work in this DevSecOps environment. And I think one of the things I hear from CIOs quite often is, well, we're trying to build our capacity. We're trying to do more training. Mm-hmm. When you talk to agencies, again, what's the conversations you're having with them about their capabilities of the workforce?
Yeah, I think that one of the most important things there is to look at for their individuals, the training becomes very important. And I think that during these modernization efforts, it's really important for an SI to not just come in and do the work, but also be very cognizant of the fact that you need to be able to skill set transfer over to the government individuals that are there at the agency, because it is of no help to an agency to expect that the paradigm is always going to be you come in and stay for 10, 15, 20 years on site. The government needs to be able to also have a skilled workforce to do this work. And so there's that portion of it. But then also when you look at it, you want to take a look at the fact that from a government agency side, they have to invest in their employees to get these new, be able to obtain these new skill sets in order to be able to ask the right questions and know that what they're getting from their SIs and their vendor partners that they're working with is the right solution for them.
And that comes back to the beginning of our conversation with hybrid cloud, the right solution. What are you trying to get to? What's your mission outcome? Tricia, unfortunately, we're out of time, so but this has been a fascinating conversation. So first, let me thank my guest, Tricia Fitzmaurice, the Regional Manager for Federal Law Enforcement and Justice at Red Hat. Tricia, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carahsoft on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search innovation.